One of my top requests was a fall pumpkin truck painting, so here we go. Take your mop brush and with some light blue and white, do back and forth strokes at the top of your canvas for your sky. I'm using 11 by 14 canvas board today. Then clean off your brush and dip into some colors for your road. I'm just taking tan and dark brown and doing back and forth strokes all the way to the bottom. When you're done with the ground, keep the tan and brown on your brush, but mix in a little bit of green. That's going to make an earthy shade of green for some trees in the background. Bounce in a horizon line. You could also use a sponge for this. I like to use my brush. And your truck is going to be in the middle, so only do a little bit on the left and right hand sides. Now see how the bottoms of the trees look a little funny? Grab a little bit more of your road color and you can just clean that up by doing a line underneath it. There we go. Dry it and we're ready to plant some trees. To do this, take a size 3 round brush. And now something about the road, there's going to be some perspective, so it forms a triangle with the tip of the triangle up in that gap where the trees is, and then it goes out towards the outer edges of the painting as you get towards the bottom of the canvas. I'm going to mix some white in with my dark brown to make lighter colored trees. And the trees that are furthest away from us are going to be really thin and a little bit shorter than all the other trees. Do simple branches. We are going to be putting leaves on these. And as they get down towards us, closer to us on the road, the trees are going to get a little bit taller and also a little bit thicker. Also notice it goes along that triangle. So see, this one's down even further. It's going to be even thicker. And it goes out along the side of the triangle, closer to the left side of the canvas as it gets down towards the bottom. Make the branches as fun as you want. Just make sure you're adding those V's in there and they're not perfectly straight lines. So there's the left side. Let's do the right side of the road. Same thing. Thinner and shorter trees towards the back, and then as it gets down towards you, you're going to make the trees thicker. And you don't have to plant them all along the side of the road. Fill up the left and right hand sides of your canvas with trees. So I'm going to do one slightly over to the right here. Just remember that size is important to give it depth. So to make it look further away, there is a tiny tree over there all the way on the right. That's a start. Another trick to make your forest look like it has depth is add some dark brown trees to the mix as well. I like to do lighter trees in the distance because they're further away, and then some of the ones that are really close to us are darker brown. We're getting there. Let's get closer to us on the road. Down here in the bottom corner, I'm going to do a really tall tree. The ones down towards the bottom left and right should be much thicker and almost as tall as the entire painting. And don't forget to have some of the branches going off the painting as well. Another trick to making the forest look full is make sure you are overlapping your trees. Notice how I'm adding these dark brown ones in here, that they are starting to overlap over top of the lighter brown trees, especially the branches. That's okay. You want the trees to overlap to make it look like a full forest. Once you have all your trees, it's finally time to add some fall leaves. To do this, we're going to do something different. I'm going to take a cluster of cotton swabs, and I like to take a rubber band and just connect them all so they don't fall as I'm using them. You could also use an artist sponge if you want, but I want to try a new texture today. Pick your favorite fall leaf colors. I'm going to start with some dark yellow and use it the same way we do an artist sponge, just bounce it. I wouldn't suggest going right into the paint and right to the canvas. I would bounce some off first so you don't get clumps of paint. But once you get going, it's a nice little texture that gives you little dots. I'm also going to mix in clusters of orange. You can overlap the colors. What's your favorite fall colors? I do love all of them, but yellow and orange are some of my favorites. I'm even going to put some light brown clusters in there as well to make it look like it has some shading. Also, the leaves are starting to turn, so they do turn brown before they fall. Which, speaking of falling leaves, don't forget to bounce in some color and texture along the bottom where the leaves would fall. I'm also going to do that along the edge of the road there, going all the way back. If you want to add single leaves too in different areas, I'm going to take a single cotton swab and bounce in a little bit of light green. That color always brings out the fall colors. Now, one thing I will say about using cotton swabs, though, is the leaves turn out a little bit transparent. So I like to take an artist sponge and just fill in a couple areas where I feel like it needs to be a little bit more full. There we go. Are you ready? Let's paint a truck to drive on our road. To start, pick a color for your truck. I'm not going to do a little red truck this time like we did for Christmas, but for fall, I'm going to use a bluish green. And I already sketched the shape. It's the same shape as the Christmas truck, but I'm going to show you how to freehand it still. So start with a line above the horizon line and do a curved upside down U over top of that. That's going to create your window in the top half or the cabin of your truck. On either side of the cabin, you're going to do two curved lines that go out and down on either side. That makes the side of the truck. And then connect the two with a straight line. Once you have that line or that shape, fill it in with your truck color. And we're going to do one more level that curves out. So we're going to have a curve that goes out and down on either side of that first curve. And connect those with a straight line as well. And that's the main shape of your truck. So fill it all in with your green color. I'm going to do a second coat, so you can do that if you need to. There we go. Now for the bumper, I'm going to take a smaller round brush and just do a light gray color. You could also do silver metallic if you have it. Shade it a little bit with some black. It's just slightly wider than the truck itself. And while we have the black paint, add tires. So just make a curved rectangle shape that's slightly in from the edge of the sides of the truck. There we go. So we have two tires, the truck, the window. You could leave it blank and just have the sky shining through, but I'm going to fill it in with a tinted white. So I kind of tinted it with some black and the color of the truck because it would be reflecting. And then I like to do back and forth strokes with black and white to make it look like the sun is reflecting on it. There we go. For truck details, let's start working on the back of the truck. I'm going to start with a black line underneath my window. See how there's a little gap between the window and this line? Blend it in with some of your truck color there. And then slightly underneath that, do two lines that line up with the sides of the cabin. That's the sides of your tailgate. This tailgate, unlike the Christmas truck, is going to be open so we can put pumpkins in it. So I did my thick black line connecting the two on the bottom instead of the top. And let's fill in the inside of it with just a combination of the truck color and some black to make it look shaded. Doing up and down strokes in between the two lines and even off the top. There we go. Now it's open, ready to put pumpkins in. Let's shade the bottom of this bumper a little bit and then grab some white paint to add a license plate. We can put a word on it later, but just make a curved rectangle. So start thinking about what you want to put on it. And as a final touch, take a detail brush, and I like to use black and outline my truck. You can outline any part of it you want to make it stand out. I did the window, the edges, and the bumper. For the license plate, I'm actually going to take a little bit of gray and outline that so it's not quite as dark. Oh, and I almost forgot about tailgate lights. You can put whatever style lights you want. I'm going to do red circles and a little tiny white circle over top of that in each side of the truck on that bottom curve. There we go. Now I'm going to also take a large round brush. Here's other details around the truck. Take some dark brown and do back and forth strokes behind each tire all the way to the bottom. That's going to give it a little bit of shading, but also look like the truck is driving through the leaves. If you do too much of it or it gets too dark, you can always go back in with some tan and do back and forth strokes in the middle of the shading. But then take your Q-tips again with some color and just bounce in some leaves across the back. Because if you know fall leaves, they go right into the road. They're not going to miss the road. So bounce it across the bottom of the road and even in the back. This is also a good time to decide if you want to add any more trees on the left and right hand side now that you have the truck in there. I'm even going to add some dark brown leaves up in the trees to give it some shading. And speaking of shading, don't forget to add highlights and shading to your tree trunks. This is optional. It's always optional how much detail you do, but anything like this is really going to make your details stand out. One detail I always like to do is add white pops of highlights with a detail brush anywhere you want the truck to pop. So I do that all along the tops, on the lights, even on the tires. That's an optional detail. Don't forget to add a mirror, just a little circle with a line curving to the window. Okay, now we're done with the truck. Let's fill it up with pumpkins. So start with some white and a slightly smaller round brush and do a teardrop shape And then continue making curved shapes on either side of that teardrop until you get the size of your pumpkin. If you watched any of my pumpkin painting tutorials this fall, you can learn how to do a bigger pumpkin. We're going to do the exact same thing. Except for in the back of the truck, I'm going to have a couple different sizes. So that's going to be kind of a wide and short one. This one will be a big and tall one. And then why don't I do a smaller one on the bottom right? It's up to you how many pumpkins you do, but we're doing them white first so we can paint them a color. Dry the white, and then you can paint it bright. I'm going to do a couple different color pumpkins, so let's do a bright orange one here. Let's do a reddish orange on this one on the left. And like in my beginner pumpkin painting, I'm going to have a tan little one right beside the orange one. There we go. For the orange pumpkin, do yellow highlights on each of the sections. On the dark red pumpkin, do orange highlights. And to add some shading, take a detail brush with some dark brown, and you can add the ribs of the pumpkin just by outlining each of those shapes. And before the brown dries, take a little bit of orange and blend those in. You can even do a little bit of shading at the bottom of each of your pumpkins. Do the same thing with the red one. You can blend it in with a little bit of orange and red as well. For the little tan pumpkin, I'm not going to use quite dark brown. I'm going to do like a muted version of the tan color and do some shading there. With dark brown though, don't forget to add some stems. So you can outline the top of your pumpkin just a little bit and do a little tiny tilted rectangle at the top of each. However you want to design it. I've seen people putting pets in the back of these trucks. I've seen sunflowers, so many fun things you can do in your own painting. So don't forget to make it your own. I'm a little pumpkin obsessed this fall, so that's what I'm doing. I'm even going to do some highlights, little pops of white on my stems. Let's do some on the tops of the pumpkins as well, just a little hint. And last but not least, don't forget to put a word on your license plate. The top suggestion was harvest, and I love that, so that's the word I'm going to do, but I'm going to spell it a little bit differently just to see how many people correct my spelling. But in all realness, you can shorten words on license plates if you need to. Either way, I can't wait to see how yours turns out, and if you like this tutorial and want to see the Christmas truck version of it, I will make sure to link that video in the description below as well. Have fun and happy painting, everybody!